Go back far enough and the history of the world is pretty simple to explain. Basically, there were no people, and then there were. And that's it. There's nothing else in the history books for about 99% of our existence. We humans have been around for somewhere between 200 and 300,000 years. And for most of that time, we didn't do much more than slowly spread out across the planet and occasionally make slightly bigger brains. It wasn't until about 12,000 years ago, right after the last ice age ended, that things got kind of interesting. That's when humans began to do all the stuff we're famous for today, like making cities, starting wars, and leaving YouTube comments that are 47% more stupid than they used to be. And they did all this in spite of not having invented the wheel yet. So how did they do it? Well, the answer might surprise you. It was with tribes and clans. Okay, so technically speaking, humans have been living in groups since before we were modern humans. But what I'm talking about here is something different. What really kick-started civilization was the rise of early tribes and clans. And these weren't just groups of people who shared a common interest or lived within a certain zip code. These were tightly knit communities of hunter-gatherers whose survival depended on their ability to work together. You could think of them like the Avengers of the Stone Age, except instead of fighting Thanos, they were fighting the saber-toothed tiger, and instead of witty banter, they had grunts and gestures. Now, there's some debate about exactly when the first true tribes formed, but it seems likely that they started popping up all over the world around the same time. And that makes sense because while humans can be many things, we're not the kind of species that's naturally inclined to go it alone. We need each other. And that's why anthropologists believe that early tribes followed a similar pattern. They all started off as small bands of nomadic hunter-gatherers who relied on their knowledge of plants and animals to stay alive. But as time went on, these bands grew larger and more complex. They needed more food and more tools and more people to protect them from predators and rival groups. So they created a new system called the clan. It's important to note that the word clan carries a bit of a negative connotation these days. When we hear the word clan, we usually think of the KKK or those annoying families that show up to every family reunion and hog all the potato salad. But to anthropologists, clan just means a group of people related by blood or marriage. In the context of early human history, the clan was an incredibly useful tool. It allowed humans to live in larger groups without having to constantly worry about fighting over food or territory. As long as everyone stayed within their clan, they were part of the group, which meant they were safe. Of course, this didn't stop humans from being horrible to each other. But that's a story for another time. The point is that thanks to the clan system, early humans were able to focus on other things like farming, trading, and building permanent settlements. And once they started doing that, they quickly realized that life was pretty sweet. For the first time in human history, people started getting rich. They also started raising livestock, making pottery, and most importantly, inventing new weapons. In fact, anthropologists believe that many of the most important early inventions came out of this period of prehistory. The wheel, the plow, the axe, and even the sail are all thought to have been invented during the rise of early tribes and clans. That is because when you put a bunch of smart people in a group and give them a reason to work together, amazing things happen. Of course, this isn't to say that life was perfect. In many ways, it actually sucked. Most people still died young and serious injuries were a constant threat. But overall, it was a major improvement over what came before. And it all came down to one simple thing, working together. If you'd like to learn more about the rise of civilization, check out the series in the description.